Hello and welcome to the People Stack. This is the show where we try to break down all things people, payroll, and policy, especially for startups and small businesses here in India. I'm your host, and this episode is powered by our friends at offrd.co, your friendly HR automation partner. Today, we're really digging into something I know keeps a lot of founders up at night. How do you actually structure salaries correctly, in the private sector in India, without just guessing or maybe even worse, unintentionally breaking the law? It feels complex, really.
It really does, yeah.
But it's so critical for your business health. And to help us unpack all of this, we have the Customer Success Manager from Offered with us, someone who works really closely with founders every single day, helping them navigate these exact kinds of, people problems. Welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Always happy to, try and break down some of this scary stuff. The things founders wish came with a manual.
Definitely.
And salary structuring is absolutely one of them. It's so foundational, whether you're just starting or, scaling up. Getting it right is key.
It certainly feels like a maze sometimes. So, okay, let's unpack this. When we talk about a salary structure in India, in the private sector, what are we actually defining? What are the pieces?
That's a perfect place to start because, it's not just one big number. Basically, we're talking about how a company breaks down what it pays an employee, like a blueprint for their compensation.
Mm-hmm.
And in India's private sector, a typical structure has, several key parts that you as a founder really need to know.
Okay.
So first up, you've got the basic salary. This is really the foundation, the backbone of the whole thing. It usually makes up, say, 40 to 50% of the total package. And this percentage, it's absolutely critical.
Why critical?
Because so many other statutory deductions, benefits, they're calculated directly based on this basic figure. So it's not just a number. It dictates a lot of your legal obligations.
Right. Got it.
Then you have allowances. These are parts of the salary meant to help employees cover specific costs. Common ones you'll see are HRA house rent allowance for housing, conveyance allowance for travel, medical allowance, LTA, which is leave travel allowance. Now, these are often structured to give some tax benefits to the employee, which is great, but they're still very much part of the total pay.
Okay, so they help the employee, but are still part of the overall cost.
Exactly. It's a way to provide value beyond just, straight cash. Next, there's often variable pay. This is where performance usually comes in. Think bonuses, sales commissions, maybe other performance-linked incentives. Unlike the basic and allowances, this part isn't always guaranteed. It can change, based on how the individual or the company does.
So it aligns incentives.
Precisely. It's a powerful tool for motivation, linking individual success to company goals. And finally, you might have reimbursements or perks, things like maybe meal cards, phone bill reimbursements, fuel allowances perhaps. These add to the overall package, but aren't always direct cash in hand each month. So all these bits, the basic, allowances, variable, perks, they all get wrapped up together into the CTC, cost to company.
CTC.
That's the total cost for you, the employer, to have that employee on board for the year, the full picture.
Okay, so the CTC is the whole pie.
Mm.
But speaking of that pie, what happens with the actual money the employee sees, the take-home pay? Because that's always less than the CTC figure on the offer letter, right? And that can be a real, shock sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. You've hit on a really common point of confusion there. The take-home pay is exactly that, what actually lands in the employee's bank account after all the deductions. So from that big CTC number, several mandatory contributions have to come out first, legally required.
Okay, like what?
Well, the biggest one for most employees is their contribution to the Provident Fund, or PF. If your company has 20 or more employees, this is mandatory under the EPFO rules. A standard 12% of the employee's basic pay goes into their PF account.
Right, for retirement.
Exactly. It's long-term savings. So it reduces the immediate cash, but it builds that crucial nest egg, a big Social Security benefit.
Okay, what else?
Then there's employee state insurance, ESI. This is like a Social Security and health insurance scheme rolled into one. It kicks in if your employees earn $21,000 or less per month, and if your company has 10 or more people. For this, the employee contributes 0.75% of their gross wages. It gives them medical cover, support during illness, maternity, things like that. A safety net.
Okay. So PF and ESI.
And of course, income tax. Deducted as TDS tax, deducted at source. That depends on their income bracket and any declarations they've made. So those three, PF, ESI, if applicable, and income tax are the main things that shrink the CTC down to the take-home salary.
Right.
And it's so important everyone understands these aren't just random deductions by the company, they're legal requirements.
That makes sense. So that explains the employee's deductions. But as a founder, you mentioned CTC is the cost to company. So there are costs on your side too, beyond just their gross pay.
Yes, absolutely. And this is a crucial point I think some founders miss, especially when budgeting early on. These are costs on top of the employee's gross.
Oh.
You, as the employer, also have to contribute to the Provident Fund. It's a matching contribution, so another 12% of the employee's basic pay. You put that into their PF account, too. It mirrors their contribution.
So double the PF amount is actually going in, split between employee and employer.
Exactly. And that employer part is a significant chunk of the CTC that doesn't show up in the employee's take-home at all.
Wow, okay. That's important to budget for.
Definitely. And similarly for ESI, if it applies, the employer contributes 3.25% of the employee's gross wages. Again, an additional cost for you, but it ensures those employees have access to those critical benefits.
And these employer parts aren't optional either, right? If the conditions are met.
Not at all. If you meet the employee thresholds 20 for PF, 10 for ESI, these are legal requirements. Ignoring them, that leads to serious penalties.
Okay, that's really clear. So regular salary, deductions, employer contributions. What about things like bonuses? We often hear about Diwali bonus or annual bonuses.
Yeah.
Is that just, a nice extra, or is there a legal side to that too?
Bonuses. That's another area where there's often some confusion. It's not purely goodwill. There's actually a statutory bonus that's legally required under the Payment of Bonus Act.
Oh, wait.
Yes. If an employee earns $21,000 or less per month, you are legally required to pay them a minimum bonus. The minimum is 8.33% of their annual wages. What that usually means in practice is about 1 month's basic pay at least.
So that's mandatory for eligible employees.
Mandatory. You absolutely need to account for it, especially, like you said, around festival times or year-end. And then there's gratuity. This one's more long-term. It's a lump sum payment you give an employee as a kind of thank you for their long service.
How long is long service?
It kicks in after an employee completes 5 continuous years with your company. And again, if you have 10 or more employees, you are legally obligated to pay gratuity when an eligible employee leaves after those 5 years.
Okay, and how much is it?
The calculation is basically 15 days of their last drawn basic pay for every completed year of service. There's a cap, currently 20 lakh, but for most startup employees, it's that 15 days per year calculation.
So that's a future liability you need to plan for.
Exactly. It's not immediate cash out, but it's crucial to factor it into your long-term financial planning. It's a legal commitment, not just a nice gesture.
This is all starting to paint a much clearer picture of the current setup. But then there's all this buzz around the new labor codes. We keep hearing about them. Are they live? And what are the big changes founders need to be ready for? Because, well, changing foundation rules sounds like it could shake things up.
You're right to flag that. The new labor codes, they aren't fully implemented across the board yet. Implementation has been phased and, well, a bit delayed. But they are coming. And yes, they represent a massive overhaul of India's labor laws. Probably the biggest shift, especially for salary structuring, is the revised definition of wages.
Okay, definition of wages. Why is that such a big deal?
Because under the proposed new law, your basic pay plus dearness allowance, if you pay that, must make up at least 50% of the employee's total pay or total remuneration.
At least 50%.
Wow. Yes. 50%. This is a huge change from current practices for many companies. Historically, some companies, maybe especially startups trying to manage cash flow, might inflate allowances. Things like HRA, special allowances.
To keep the basic low.
Exactly, to keep the basic pay low. Because remember, PF and gratuity are calculated on basic, so a lower basic meant lower statutory contributions. Some saw it as a cost-saving tactic. The new codes basically shut that down. They say, nope, at least half your total pay has to be considered wages for calculating these Social Security benefits.
So no more minimizing PF by playing with allowances.
Pretty much. It forces a more substantial portion of the salary into that wages bucket, which means statutory contributions like PF and potentially gratuity costs will likely go up for companies that currently have a low basic percentage.
So this isn't just for new companies. Existing ones will have to adjust.
Oh, absolutely. Many established companies will likely need to significantly restructure their compensation plans to comply once this is fully rolled out. It will increase compliance costs, yes, but the aim is to strengthen employee Social Security.
That sounds like a really significant shift. potentially quite disruptive for companies used to that lower basic structure. So if basic has to be 50%, does that mean overall CTCs might shrink? Or will companies just have to absorb the higher costs to keep take-home pay similar?
That's the million rupee question, isn't it? It's possible some might try to adjust CTC slightly, but more likely, I think, companies will need to budget for those higher employer contributions to maintain competitive take-home pay. It definitely impacts financial planning.
Okay, so with all this current rules, future changes, what's your most critical, actionable advice for founders listening right now, trying to do the right thing, stay compliant, build a strong foundation?
Right, let's boil it down. A few key things. First, and this is probably the most practical tip right now, aim to keep your basic salary at least 50% of the total CTC now.
Even before the codes are fully live.
Yes. Get ahead of the curve. Align with the spirit of the new law today. It minimizes painful adjustments later. And, frankly, it's better for employee benefits calculations anyway. Don't wait to be forced into it.
Okay, 50% basic minimum. What else?
Second, factor in employer PF and gratuity properly when you budget salaries. Don't just look at the gross or the take-home. Remember, your matching PF contribution, that future gratuity liability, these are real costs accumulating. Build them into your financial models from day one. Avoid those nasty surprises down the line. I've seen founders get caught out by this.
Right. Think long-term liability, not just immediate cash flow.
Exactly. And third, something often overlooked if you hire remotely. Check the minimum wage rates in the specific state where your employee works.
They vary.
Significantly.
Sure.
Minimum wages aren't uniform across India. They differ by state, sometimes even by industry or skill level within a state. You absolutely need to ensure you're meeting the minimum wage for that employee's location and role. Compliance is local here.
Wow, okay. So 50% basic, factor in employer costs, check state minimums. It sounds like really there are no shortcuts.
There really are, not if you want to build sustainably. It's tempting, especially when you're lean, to maybe try and cut corners on this stuff.
Yeah.
But the risks, penalties, back payments, the damage to your reputation if you're seen as non-compliant, it's just not worth it.
So it's an investment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Structuring salaries legally, ethically, it's not just about avoiding fines. It's fundamental to building trust with your team. It helps attract and retain talent. It strengthens your brand as a good employer.
Brilliant. This was super, super useful. You've really helped break down what feels like a very tangled topic into clear, actionable steps. Thank you.
My pleasure. Always happy to help founders navigate this. It's crucial stuff.
That wraps up today's episode of The People Stack, brought to you by Offered. Seriously, if you're a founder listening and you want to automate HR, take the complexity out of things like payroll and compliance without hiring a huge HR team just yet, do check out www.do.e.co. Their tools can really help you stay on top of exactly these kinds of requirements. And if this People Stack session helps you get a clearer picture of salary structures, please do share it. Send it to your co-founder, your finance lead, anyone who deals with payroll. And don't forget to subscribe to the People Stack for more insights into people, payroll, and policy. Until next time, pay well, stay compliant. And remember, investing in a robust, legally sound salary structure, it isn't just about avoiding penalties. It's about building trust, keeping your best people, and truly growing with your team. The People Stack.